Being called the perfect employee can feel like proof that you are doing life correctly. You are dependable. You are useful. You are the person they can trust when pressure rises and everyone else steps back. On the surface, it looks like respect, but sometimes the compliment is not celebrating your strength. Sometimes it is rewarding your inability to protect yourself. You stay late even when your body is asking for rest. You answer messages when your mind is already empty. You accept more work because saying no feels heavier than the work itself. Little by little, your identity becomes attached to being needed. And once people know you will always say yes, they stop treating your yes as generosity. They start treating it as policy. Slow down here. The problem is not that you care about your work. The problem is when your care becomes a cage. A healthy professional gives effort with intention. A wounded professional gives everything because being unavailable feels dangerous. The first shift is simple. Stop confusing praise with proof that your life is in order. Your yes does not always come from kindness. Sometimes it comes from fear. Fear of disappointing someone. Fear of being seen as difficult. Fear of losing approval. Fear that if you're not useful, you will become invisible. This is why the word no feels so heavy. It does not feel like a boundary. It feels like a threat to your belonging, so you become easy to manage. You adjust your schedule before anyone asks. You swallow frustration before it becomes a conversation. You tell yourself it is not a big deal, even when your nervous system keeps collecting the cost. And because you rarely resist, people assume you are fine. That is where the pattern repeats. But your fear is not evidence that the boundary is wrong. It is evidence that the boundary is new. The discomfort of saying no does not mean you are failing. It means you are interrupting an old pattern that taught you approval was safer than honesty. You do not become stronger by saying yes to everything. You become stronger by telling the truth without abandoning yourself. There is a difference between being responsible and disappearing inside responsibility. Real work ethic has structure. It knows when to focus, when to deliver, and when to recover. Self-abandonment has no endpoint. It keeps giving long after the task is finished because the real goal is no longer excellence. The real goal is to feel worthy. This is why exhaustion can start to feel normal. You do not notice how much you are carrying because you have built a personality around carrying it. You become proud of surviving pressure instead of questioning why you keep accepting it. You call it commitment. Your body calls it stress. Your mind calls it noise. Your life quietly calls it imbalance. This is not discipline. This is self-respect asking to be Discipline does not require you to sacrifice your health to prove your value. It requires you to use your energy wisely. The shift begins when you stop asking, how much more can I take? And start asking, what kind of life am I building by accepting this? Many adults are not only working for a paycheck, they are working for a feeling they learned to chase years ago, the feeling of being accepted. The feeling of being safe because they did not create problems. The feeling of being loved because they were useful, quiet, obedient, and easy to approve. The office changes the costume, but not always the pattern. The child who learned to earn affection can become the adult who tries to earn safety through performance. That adult becomes the one who never complains, never asks for help, never pushes back, and never rests without guilt. The boss becomes a new authority figure, the workplace becomes a new stage, and the old need for approval finds a professional name. But here's the part people usually miss. Understanding the pattern is not about blaming your past. It is about becoming free from repeating it. You can respect where the behavior came from without letting it run your future. You are no longer a child waiting to be chosen. You are an adult learning how to choose yourself. Being needed can become addictive because it gives your pain a purpose. When people depend on you, you feel important. When they praise your sacrifice, you feel seen. When they panic without you, a part of you feels powerful. But this kind of power is unstable. It depends on other people constantly needing more from you than you can safely give. Over time, being needed can replace being known. People know what you can do for them, but they may not know what it costs you. They know you will answer, fix, stay, cover, support, and absorb. But they may not notice the resentment building under your patience. They may not see the distance growing between your public reliability and your private exhaustion. The real cost is not only tiredness. The real cost is losing the ability to hear yourself. When your life is organized around everyone else's needs, your own needs start to sound like interruptions. And once you see this clearly, the next chapter becomes unavoidable. You have to look at the price of approval. Approval feels good because it gives you quick relief. Someone praises you, trusts you, thanks you, or calls you reliable. And for a moment, the pressure inside you becomes quiet. You feel useful, you feel safe, you feel like your place is protected. But when approval becomes the fuel for your identity, you stop choosing your actions freely. You start measuring your value through other people's reactions. If they are pleased, you feel calm. If they are disappointed, you feel threatened. A delayed reply can disturb your peace. A small criticism can ruin your day. A simple request can become impossible to refuse because your nervous system treats disapproval like danger. This is where clarity begins. Approval is not evil, but it is too unstable to build your life around. You can receive appreciation without becoming addicted to it. You can be respected without being controlled. The next step is learning that your worth does not rise every time someone needs you, and it does not fall every time someone is unhappy with you. At first, you may think you are simply patient. You tolerate pressure. You avoid conflict. You give people more chances than they deserve. You keep your tone calm, your face controlled, and your frustration hidden. But sometimes what you call patience is really resentment that has not yet found a safe place to speak. You say yes, then feel angry later, you help. Then feel used, you agree. Then replay the conversation in your head because you know you betrayed yourself. The anger does not come from helping people. It comes from helping while pretending you had no choice. And over time, that quiet anger starts changing how you see everyone around you. But resentment is not always a sign that people are bad. Sometimes it is a signal that your boundaries are unclear. It is your inner life saying, you keep giving permission where you should be giving limits. Patience becomes clean again when it is chosen freely. Until then, it is often just silence wearing a polite face. Burnout often begins long before you collapse. It begins when tiredness becomes part of your personality. You wake up already behind. You finish one task and immediately feel the weight of the next. You keep functioning, so nobody worries. And because you're still producing, even you may believe the damage is not serious. Then small things start to change. You lose patience faster. You stop enjoying simple moments. Rest feels uncomfortable because your mind keeps scanning for something you forgot. You become physically present but emotionally unavailable. You are there but not fully alive inside your own life. That is not productivity. That is depletion with a calendar. You thought endurance proved strength, but sometimes endurance is just fear refusing to stop. Real strength includes recovery, it includes limits, it includes the maturity to understand that a tired mind makes poor decisions, a neglected body sends warnings, and a life built on constant depletion will eventually demand payment. Guilt is one of the strongest tools keeping you trapped in the perfect employee identity. You feel guilty for resting, guilty for not answering quickly, guilty for leaving on time, guilty for protecting a weekend, guilty for having needs that interrupt other people's expectations. So your calendar slowly becomes a map of everyone's priorities except your own. You may tell yourself you are just being responsible, but look closer. Responsibility has order. Guilt has panic. Responsibility helps you choose what matters. Guilt makes everything feel urgent. Responsibility respects limits. Guilt punishes you for having them. And when guilt is in charge, even free time does not feel free. The next shift is simple, but not easy. You have to stop treating guilt as an authority. Guilt can be a feeling without being a command. You can feel uncomfortable and still choose wisely. You can disappoint someone and still be a good person. You can protect your time without needing a perfect explanation for why your life belongs to you. Self-betrayal does not always look dramatic. Often it looks like one extra task, one ignored boundary, one message answered during dinner. One promise to rest that you break again. One moment where your body says no, but your mouth says yes. The damage feels small because each decision looks harmless by itself. But repetition changes identity. Every time you ignore yourself to keep someone else comfortable, you teach your mind that your needs are negotiable. Every time you silence your truth to avoid tension, you teach your voice that peace depends on disappearance. Most of the damage did not happen in one moment. It happened through repetition, and this is where the real change begins. You do not rebuild self-respect with one grand decision. You rebuild it through small moments where you finally stay loyal to yourself. You pause before answering. You check your energy before agreeing. You let your no be clear. Slowly, your life starts returning to its rightful owner. Before you can set a boundary with another person, you have to set one inside yourself. This is where many people struggle. They want others to respect limits they have not fully accepted yet. They say they need rest, but still feel guilty for taking it. They say they want peace, but keep negotiating with pressure. So the first boundary is not spoken out loud. It begins in the quiet moment before you agree to something. It begins when you notice the tension in your body, the hesitation in your mind, the small voice that says, "I do not have the capacity for this." That voice has probably been ignored for years, but ignoring it did not make you stronger. It only made you disconnected. This is where you begin again. You do not need to become cold. You do not need to become selfish. You need to become honest. A boundary is not an attack. It is a line that helps love, work, service, and responsibility remain clean. Without boundaries, even good things become heavy. When you stop rushing to please everyone, silence may feel uncomfortable at first. You may not know what to do with the space. Without constant tasks, messages, requests, and obligations, you start hearing parts of yourself you avoided. This is why many people stay busy. Noise protects them from the truth. In silence, you may notice how tired you really are. You may notice anger you buried, sadness you dismissed, dreams you postponed, and needs you called inconvenient. The quiet does not create these things. It reveals them, and that can feel unsettling because your identity was built around being useful. Not being honest with yourself, but silence is not emptiness. It is information. It shows you what your life has been costing you. You thought you needed more time. But first, you needed less noise. When the noise drops, your attention returns. And when your attention returns, your choices become clearer. For a long time, you may have been known by what you provide. The reliable one, the strong one, the flexible one, the one who understands, the one who can handle it. These roles can become useful, but they can also become prisons when you forget there is a person underneath them. The danger is subtle. You may become excellent at performing a version of yourself that receives approval, while the real version of you becomes underdeveloped. You may know how to solve problems for others, but not how to listen to your own life. You may know how to show up professionally, but not how to come home to yourself emotionally. Rebuilding begins when you stop asking only, "What do they need from me?" and start asking, "Who am I becoming while meeting these needs?" That question changes everything. Your role can be part of your life, but it cannot be the whole structure. You are not here only to be useful. You are here to become whole. Some people avoid boundaries because they confuse responsibility with self-punishment. They believe being responsible means carrying everything, absorbing everything, and never becoming a burden. But responsibility is not the same as emotional slavery. It is not the habit of paying for peace with your own exhaustion. A responsible person can still say no. A responsible person can still rest. A responsible person can still admit limits without collapsing into shame. In fact, responsibility becomes stronger when it is honest. When you pretend to have unlimited capacity, you do not become more dependable. You become less truthful about what you can sustain. This is a necessary correction. You can care without overextending. You can serve without disappearing. You can be committed without being consumed. The goal is not to escape responsibility. The goal is to carry the right responsibilities in the right way, without turning your life into a punishment for being needed. Many people fear that choosing themselves will make them hard, cold, or selfish. So they stay available beyond reason. They keep softening their needs to avoid being misunderstood. But choosing yourself does not require closing your heart. It requires opening your eyes. You can be kind and still have limits. The old version of you may believe love means constant availability. Work means constant sacrifice. Strength means never needing anything. But the more mature version of you understands something different. Love without boundaries becomes resentment. Work without recovery becomes burnout. Strength without self-respect becomes performance. The next part is where your power becomes quiet. You stop proving. You stop chasing approval. You stop explaining every limit as if your needs require permission. You become softer inside because you are no longer at war with yourself, and from that place, real confidence begins to form. When you stop living for approval, your strength becomes quieter. You no longer need every effort to be noticed. You no longer need every sacrifice to be praised. You begin to understand that real maturity is not always visible from the outside. Sometimes it looks like leaving on time, resting without guilt, and refusing to perform exhaustion as proof of value. This may feel strange at first because you're used to being recognized through overextension. You're used to earning your place by caring more than others. But calm strength does not depend on applause. It does not panic when someone misunderstands your limits. It does not collapse because one person is disappointed. This is where your identity starts to stabilize. You are no longer trying to become unforgettable by being endlessly available. You are becoming grounded by being honest, consistent, and clear. The strongest version of you is not the one everyone can use. It is the one who knows where service ends and self-respect begins. Emotional independence does not mean you stop caring about your work or the people around you. It means your inner state is no longer controlled by every reaction, request, mood, or opinion in the room. You can receive feedback without turning it into a verdict on your worth. You can be corrected without feeling destroyed. Before this shift, the workplace may have felt like a mirror that decided who you were. A compliment made you feel safe. A cold message made you anxious. A disappointed tone made you question yourself. You were not just working, you were emotionally attached to being approved by the system around you, but peace does not come from making everyone happy. It comes from building an inner place that does not move every time someone else reacts. You can listen, you can improve, you can take responsibility, but you no longer have to hand your self-worth to people who only see the part of you that performs. You cannot build a meaningful life with energy that is constantly leaking. Purpose requires attention. It requires space. It requires a mind that is not always recovering from unnecessary pressure. If every day is spent pleasing, explaining, fixing, and absorbing, there will be very little left for the future you claim to want. This is why boundaries are not only emotional, they are strategic. Every time you protect your time, you protect your direction. Every time you say no to something misaligned, you say yes to something that matters. The perfect employee identity may keep you praised in the short term, but it can quietly steal the focus needed to build your own life. You thought protecting your energy was selfish, but without protected energy, your purpose becomes a decoration, something you talk about, but never have enough strength to pursue. The next level of your life will not be built from leftover attention. It will be built from the energy you finally stopped giving away carelessly. Confidence is not only built by achieving public goals, it is built by keeping private promises. The promise to rest when you said you would rest. The promise to speak honestly when something is too much. The promise to stop accepting pressure that damages your peace. These small promises may look invisible, but they reshape how you trust yourself. When you constantly betray your own limits, your confidence weakens even if other people admire you. You may look successful, reliable, and strong, while privately knowing that you do not protect yourself. That inner contradiction creates insecurity. Not because you lack ability, but because deep down you know you keep abandoning yourself to stay accepted. Quiet confidence begins when your inner life and outer behavior stop fighting each other. You say no when you mean no. You say yes when you can give cleanly. You stop performing peace while carrying resentment. And slowly, you become someone you can believe in, even when nobody is watching. The deepest shift is realizing that you do not have to keep earning your right to exist in every room. You do not have to prove your value through exhaustion. You do not have to become endlessly useful to deserve respect. You can contribute with excellence without turning your entire life into an audition for approval. This does not mean you stop working hard. It means your work is no longer driven by fear. You still show up. You still care. You still give real effort. But now your effort comes from choice, not panic. From maturity, not wounds. From purpose, not the old belief that love, safety, and respect must be purchased through self-sacrifice. This is the final release. You are allowed to be valuable without being available to everyone. You are allowed to be respected without being consumed. You are allowed to disappoint expectations that were built on your lack of boundaries. The perfect employee was praised for never saying no. The mature person learns that no can be the beginning of freedom. The perfect employee is often not the strongest person in the room. Sometimes it is the person who learned to survive by becoming easy to approve. The person who says yes too quickly. The person who stays late too often. The person who turns exhaustion into identity and approval into safety. But once you see the pattern, you do not have to keep living inside it. You can still be responsible. You can still be excellent. You can still care deeply about your work and the people around you, but you no longer have to abandon your body, your time, your peace, and your future to prove that you are worthy. The real transformation begins when your life stops being organized around fear. You start listening before agreeing. You start resting without shame. You start setting limits without turning them into apologies. And little by little, you become someone who is not just useful to others, but loyal to himself. If this video helped you see your own patterns with more clarity, subscribe for more calm, practical reflections on self-respect, emotional maturity, discipline, and building a life that no longer depends on approval.